Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. So welcome to the final day of the debating session of MUSA General Elections 2024. So here with us today is the most anticipated session, the Vice President Candidates Debating Session. So before we proceed to the debates, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Aaron. I'm the current returning officer for MUSA General Elections 2024. And here with us today is the candidates of the Vice President of MUSA, who are Brian Kwong and James Lai. And also with us is the, testing 1, 2, 3. And with us today is also the current Vice Presidents of MUSA, who are Ibrahim and Kimberly. So without further ado, I would like to pass the stage to the current candidates of MUSA Vice Presidents, James and Brian.
All right, mic test. Thank you, Aaron. So, hi everyone. First of all, thanks for taking up time to participate in our debate session. We will start off with a short introduction, followed by explaining some of our plans as next year's MUSA Vice President. So, we are both from Equitas. I'm James, currently Year 3 Sem 1, studying engineering, together with Brian, who is also Year 3 Sem 1 in School of Engineering. We are your Vice President candidates. Our objectives as Vice Presidents are simple: focus on academic support for our students and leading MUSA. Academic support is what our duties as Vice Presidents are mostly based on. We will be adding initiatives that benefits both the students and the school representatives to make sure enough academic support is given to our students, and as past and current officers bearers, we would like to make sure that MUSA is always improving and aligned with the correct goals with the experience that we have gained throughout our previous terms. I'll pass the mic to Brian.
And as for skills and experience, we believe we have the right experience and tools to help other MUSA departments as much as we can, one of which is being office bearers in the past and current MUSA, whereas myself, I have taken a position in the school representative department as the SOE rep, and James have also taken the CNS sports officer role in MUSA 2023. With all of these experience combined, I think we have gained enough experience, such as organizing events and also liaising with EAC committees. Thank you.
All right, so now I'd like to pass the session to the current Vice Presidents, Ibrahim and Kimberly, to ask questions to the candidates.
Okay, hi guys, good afternoon. So my first question will be, as Vice Presidents, you will deal with misconduct cases. When students raise academic complaints or concerns, examples about unfair student management by student association or unfair misconduct reports, how do you ensure these complaints are addressed fairly and in a timely manner, maintaining the confidentiality?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
So as Vice Presidents, you will deal with misconduct cases when students raise like academic complaints or concerns. So how would you ensure these complaints are addressed fairly and in a timely manner and maintaining the confidentiality between you and the students?
Okay, I think the first thing is that we have to talk to the person who is getting suspected of this academic misconduct, give him as much more support as possible to make have him as calm as possible. I think at the end of the day, I think we have to make sure that everything is fair by just looking at all the context of what he has done and looking at the rule book of the academic misconduct, making sure that everything is fair and everything doesn't go too biased.
Okay, to follow up with that, how are you all planning on helping with them if they are called upon an APC hearing or if they have to fill out a misconduct form?
Okay, so as both of us actually had such situation before, due to funny situations, let's not talk about it. So the thing is, I think the only thing we can really do is give them as much moral support. At the end of the day, we can't guarantee them that they can get whatever they want. This is not true, usually. So I think main thing is giving them as much moral support as possible and also giving them some suggestions and some advice that, because we have actually went through before, we can give them some tips, some advice on what they can do to fill up these forms and make sure that he or she doesn't have any issues with it.
Okay. You have anything to follow?
Right. So, hi, Brian and James. Second question for you all that we have prepared would be, for Monash students that represent Monash for external competitions or conferences, how would you, so a subsidy fund will be distributed to them. So my question to you is, how do you ensure fairness in the distribution of this student subsidy fund, given that in any event you have more than one student wanting it?
I think the main thing is that we have to see what they bring to school. Of course, we have to prioritize the ones with the bigger impacts. I think that just makes more sense. I think, okay, first thing, maybe we can look at the budget, think about it truly. Maybe we can sponsor both or subsidize both instead. Sorry, not sponsor, subsidize both students instead of only one. If that is not possible, maybe we can choose which one has the biggest impact. And maybe we can also direct them to some other clubs or even schools to maybe help them on this situation if they are not being subsidized by us.
Could you talk about maybe more about how, when you talk about clubs, how do they subsidize it? Because even for them, they don't get funds from the uni. To get their funds, they collect it through memberships that students sign up for.
From what I know, clubs have a appropriate amount of club funds, right? So I guess one of the ways is that they can use the club funds to provide them maybe transportation subsidized to help them bring them to the competition. This is one of the things that I can think of, because one of the examples I can bring up is the basketball team that got I think got a transportation subsidized by preparing and providing a transportation to bring them to Kedah to do a sub-kit competition. So I think that's one of the ways that I think they can subsidize the student if it's possible.
So you mentioned about like instead of giving one student, you would like end up like giving two students. Are you all gonna plan on having like a cap maximum per student?
Yeah, this I think we have to consider. We have to think about the budget. First thing, we have to see how much we are given next year for these funds. Then only we can consider how are we gonna split it between two. However, if it's not possible, then we can only do one.
But just a suggestion, it's not like, you have to split between two students. You can, give as many as you want. It's up to you all. And I get your point about the budget constraints as well. Okay. So my next question will be, in your manifesto, as your first point, you have mentioned academic and professional workshops in collaboration with all 7 schools. However, certain schools and even certain clubs and societies under the CNS division do have these workshops in place in their calendar year. So my question to you is, by you collaborating with all 7 schools, how are you planning on being unique and distinctive in order to increase the footfall and attract students for your proposed workshops?
Okay, so first thing, I think main thing is that why we think we might do it better is because of how MUSA has a better publicity. I feel like the reason why I feel like clubs are sometimes ineffective is due to the lack of awareness for a lot of the clubs. You can think about it like MAFC, right? So they only have maybe 800. How many followers do you guys have in Instagram? 800? 700?
Yeah, it's around there.
Yeah, but you see, that's only around 10% of the school, and most people won't even be able to see it because Instagram updates so much, they won't even see the post. So this is one of the issues that I feel like that would cause a lack of participants in these workshops. So for us, why we can do it better is because we have MUSA official page. It's a very big Instagram page with a lot of followers. And I think this will boost the awareness and make it more easier for more participants to join the workshop. Can I also get the second part of your question again? There's a few parts, right?
The second part of the question was that how are you planning on increasing the footfall and attract more students for your proposed workshops?
Oh, okay, that's what I explained. So the first part, sorry.
The first part is how are you all planning on being unique and distinctive, because certain schools already have these workshops in place. So how are you planning to innovate on this?
All right. So the one thing is that I feel like as vice presidents of MUSA, we have way more connections. So one of the things that we feel like we can be unique is by getting more bigger and more populated companies, companies that have really high recruiting numbers, and companies that are very attractive to students. I think this is one of the ways that we can be unique, to get people and speakers from companies that are just not possible for some clubs since they have a smaller audience. Some companies may not want to bet their speakers on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so speaking about it, if let's say you are worried about, let's say, participation rate being low or not being able to reach a large audience, what's currently happening is whenever there's an event, whether by a club or by the school, there's always reposts that the club or the school will send out to all the other accounts in Monash, and then just to say help to advertise, help to promote this, publicize it with the registration form. So how are you going to, given that such is already happening, how would you ensure that what you're offering stands out or makes it different from the school's current offering? Because if that's going to be the case, then I still see it as a problem that for schools, let's say School of Business, when they organize, they do have resume building workshop. I think last semester or this semester they have it. Would that make it such that if it already happened, if you already organize it, another club, if it's organizing it, will get a very low turnout, and it will in turn affect the nature of events that they organize? Because take, for example, the Accounting and Finance Club. Their type of event is very limited to accounting and finance students. Or if you're looking at, let's say, the Investment Club, also very limited to the type of events that they can organize, not just fun events like games and whatnot.
Okay, so for this, in general, I've also mentioned that we would like to collab with clubs. I think I've said that in the election guide. So this is one of the ways to actually make it more unique and make it not too saturated. I feel like, yes, it's true, there are a lot of resume building workshops nowadays. However, collabing with them will give them more awareness, especially since we have the MUSA official page. And that's one of the ways that we can help and actually not just saturate the number of workshops, but actually make it even and the same as this year, and also making it more better also.
So basically, you're proposing that the Vice President's Department will collaborate with a certain club and society to have these proposed workshops?
Not only them, we can also do it with school reps, and also because from what I know, even this year we had a site visit to UOB, right? So this is one of the things that was done by the president alone and not even collaborating. But the thing is, we will just want to collab with anyone that has this opportunity, that wants to do it.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that. So you mentioned with collaborating with all 7 schools and certain other clubs and societies. So I believe it's already become quite saturated. So you do know it's difficult, in order to collaborate with all 7 schools together for one particular event like this. So how are you going to tackle this issue?
I didn't really say that we wanted to collaborate with all 7 schools. I mean just one at a time, or maybe 2 at a time at most.
But in your manifesto, you mentioned it, we aim to collaborate with the 7 schools. So you mean to say that you're just planning on collaborating with 1 or 2 schools at a time, or all 7 schools together?
Yeah. Collaborating with 1 and 2. I think we just miswrite it in the manifesto.
Right, that's fine.
So as a follow-up question to it, I still don't see the point of how this is going to work, because if you are just mentioning that having an event organized by MUSA means you can gain a larger audience, but what is being done is, like I mentioned just now, even MUSA currently, they repost all events that's happening on campus. So if let's say the turnout is low just because students are not interested in the nature of the event, or if students generally don't want to attend that event because they have other commitments, assignments, it wouldn't affect much, right?
Yes, I agree with that. At the end of the day, this is just how it is. We can't force students to come to our workshops. However, the reason why we want to do it is because in general, I feel like clubs are just not getting enough, if not enough awareness for these workshops they are doing. So that's why we are trying to help so that all students can actually get the knowledge from these workshops.
So for this, would you be using, what's the plan? Would you be using EAC funds or the vice presidents from the budget? Or from the schools, how are you going to, have you all thought about how you want to allocate the funds? Because if too many events, budget is a constraint. And then given that this year also we had a budget cut, even for the vice presidents, it impacted us because for the other schools, that also means that they have lesser funds to use. But even though there are other events that are being hosted, being organized by the schools, we want to also make sure that in all events that we organize, we give it the full capability that we can, so make it the best.
So for funds, what we'll be thinking is basically cutting some of the funds from subsidy funds. This being reason is because we have talked to I've also talked to you about it also. From what we know, right, based on previous years, I think subsidy funds has not been used. Is that correct? I remember. So we would like to just not waste the funds like that. We would like to want to take some of the funds there to actually use it to do these events, do these workshops.
So how would you justify, so given that you're going to be taking out the funds from the student subsidy fund now from previous years also, it has already been part of the budget. How would you justify to Monash Finance about this? Because at the start of the year, we allocate the budget. And if you are going to be doing something else or you're going to be using the funds for another purpose, it has to be approved by them. In the sense, it must be justifiable that this is going to be put to good use rather than they are giving us funds but not used wisely.
Okay, so for the subsidy funds, if you think about it, it can only really benefit a small group of people, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a small group 10. And versus a workshop that can benefit maybe 100, 200 people that can gain important knowledge for their future careers, like industrial training, interns, graduating and finding a job, or even just how to survive in Monash. So this is just one pros and cons, is that at the end of the day, we are benefiting 200 for the workshop, while we're only benefiting 5 or even 2 people in the subsidy funds. And based on previous years, we are not even benefiting any person from that funds also. So may as well just take some of it, right?
So as you know, right, these subsidy funds, especially like the Student Education Initiative Fund and the Student Subsidy Fund, are buffer funds actually. We give it to like certain other like MUSA flagship events, which we did like last year and even this year. So basically you're just saying is that from the start, you're just going to, take money out of this fund to fund these workshops?
We're not taking it, we're just cutting it. Even from the budget proposal, we are already going to reduce the number. We're not going to just take the number we're not going to just take the funds.
So you're saying that you're going to cut these funds out from the budget proposal and it won't
We're not cutting it out, we're just reducing it. So we're reducing the number that we are giving to these funds.
Do you
not
have an
cutting
indication as to how much you're going to reduce? Because from last year also we reduced it to this year. How much are you going to reduce? Do you have an indication, any plan in mind?
So currently it's, can I say the actual number?
Sure.
Sure, right. Okay, so currently it's 9K. I think we can drop it all the way to 7.
It's not 9K, it's 13.5K in total.
That's for both, right? Yeah, both then, 30.5K. Then we can drop it around 7K for the student initiative one. And then the student subsidy will be around 4K.
So this is what you're proposing, as to reduce the buffer funds. But what if tomorrow a student comes and asks you, or they have an initiative which under the handbook it requires you to provide these funds, and what justification are you going to give it to that student?
There is still the funds to be used, so I don't think there's any justification they need to be said, to be honest. At the end of the day, we still have 7K and 3 to 4K, depending on what we think of, how we plan the workshops later on, right? So we still have the money to use to, subsidize the students.
Well, I can just suggest to you is why not just remove it from the cross-collaborative education fund instead of utilizing these buffer funds?
I think these funds are really important for the schools because the schools nowadays don't really get enough budget. I mean, if you think about it, schools are only getting 6.5K a department, and that's not really enough. From what I know, from what I've all the peers I've had this year, all of them said that not all, SOIT and SOE myself, we have quite a lot from the school facilities, but they are not really being provided by the school facilities. So they are actually just getting only 6.5K. So that's actually quite a low amount, especially being like they want to do like 10 or maybe even 8 or 7 events per sem. So I think cutting these funds will make it harder for them to do these events. So yeah.
This question is directed to Brian. So you are a current MUSA office bearer this year, and with your experience, I'm sure you can answer this. So during the MUSA training, you mentioned you want to set a buffer fund for schools to use for non-academic related events. And as the vice presidents, you are solely focused on academic related matters, especially in EAC when we distribute the funds, whether or not how much is being required by the schools. So as the head, how would you ensure that there is transparency and accountability in how you manage the funds? And also considering the fact that any funds being used should be for academic purpose purely.
Okay, so to give context on the first part, right? So at the end of the day, we would like to make it happen. However, we do have to talk to finance about it and see if it's possible. If it's not, then we'll just stay as the same. If it is, then maybe we can make it happen, because I feel like it would be nice for the schools to have an extra fund to collab with each other to improve and promote unity amongst the 7 schools. So for the second part, we will be using an Excel sheet, a Google sheet that will track all the funds that will be used in the EAC committee to make sure that there is transparency. And also, again, we will be staying the same system as this year, where there will be a voting system done to make sure that everyone approves of these funds being taken out by the specific school.
Well, just to add on to your first part and to answer your question, I believe according to the handbook, I don't think the finance would approve of this also for the use of non-academic related events. But I understand where you come from, because all 7 schools do face this problem. So my next question would be could you just go over the role and jurisdiction of the vice president in terms of education and administration?
Okay, so for us being a vice president, right, the main part about our roles is really based on academic. So what we can do is that since we are in the EAC committee, what we do is we can actually initiate initiatives with the 7 schools by providing funds to them to create and organize these initiatives. One of the other things that we can also do is to actually help voice out the students by helping them transfer their voice to the higher ups for them to hear and for them to improve in academic related things.
So you didn't answer my question. I'm asking you to tell me the job description of the vice president.
Alright, so for the admin side of the whole MUSA, so basically we will be restructuring the MUSA blueprint, division structure and constitution. Is that correct? The administration part of MUSA.
No. It means to deputize for the president. You will be handling the TEDx event. That's what that means for administrative part as your job description.
But yeah, it's stated in Instagram, right? Administration of MUSA.
No, it's stated in the handbook.
In the handbook, okay.
Okay. So are you aware of what meetings you need to attend as vice president?
Yeah. So first thing, you have to join the CEC, the the campus education committee, where we'll be talking to all 7 head schools and also the vice president of Monash Education, that is Professor Beverly Webster. Another meeting that we'll be having is the EAC, where we will be meeting with all 7 schools to talk about feedbacks that they would like to bring out, so we can actually take these feedbacks into the CAC meeting. We will also be having TEDx meetings to make sure that everyone's progress is in par, and everyone is doing their job. And I think we're also going to one of the meetings from School of Business, right? Starts with A or something. I've not forgotten, but yeah.
You mean the AAB Academic Advisory Board?
Yeah, that one. Advisory board.
So no, you won't be.
Okay.
Basically, what the Academic Advisory Board is, it's now known as Student Academic Progress Advisory Group, which is a meeting with Clayton campus, which happens every 6 months.
Okay.
So you will be discussing about like educational affairs and matters with
Okay.
Clayton campus and MSA members.
Okay. Yeah.
Ask the advocates that question.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. As student advocates, your job is to build bridges between Monash staffs and students. How are you intending to do it next year if you are appointed as OBs in terms of student advocacy?
All right. So to do this, first things first, before we support, so to support the students in whatever reform or whatever change or whatever thing they want or request, we have to look at the pros and cons, what this can benefit the school and what it affects from the school side. Because I don't think every changes can happen. There's always two sides from these changes, one being the student, one being the campus itself. Whatever change that happens will always affect the school and also the student. Of course, it will bring good things to the students. However, it may cause bad things to the school. So we have to prepare this, basically a proposal, a solution that will help both schools instead, both sides instead, the student and the school, to make sure that this can happen. Another way is also we can basically list out the pros and cons of this reform or this change to make sure that the school the school understands what this change will bring to the table.
Okay, so now referring to your second manifesto point, right? As vice presidents and the EXCO, how do you intend on strengthening MUSA? Could you provide me with examples?
Okay, so as OBs in the past and current MUSA, one of the things that we have seen a lot since these 2 years is actually seeing a lot of events succeed and fail, and also a lot of mistakes being made. So one of the ways that we can actually help strengthening MUSA is by making sure that these mistakes, and to make sure that all the events that the departments do actually succeed, and they don't do the same mistake again as the previous years. So that's one of the things. Another thing is we can also provide guidance and suggestion, as we have already made a lot of events, right? I've done quite a lot of events as a SOE rep. He has organized the whole Monash Cup. So I think with all of this experience, I think we can actually provide, especially to the school reps, they're all new OBs, newly recent OBs, where they may need some guidance on trying to organize their events. What we can do is we can give them suggestions, advice, and some tips to help.
So how are you planning on building this trust with the upcoming school reps and EAC members for you to give them such comments and advice? Are you all planning on like doing it firsthand, or would you want them to come to you?
Of course, they can come to me, always. I'm always in my office. I think you know firsthand that I'm always at the office. So they can always come to me at the office, talk to me about it, ask me for some guidance, ask me for some suggestions. I don't mind. At the end of the day, I'm currently the school rep, and next year I'll be basically the past school rep. So I have experience in being a school rep, so actually I can give them as much guidance.
You did mention about other MUSA departments and mistakes they've made this year. So could you tell me like how you can provide guidance for them to avoid that next year?
So we have seen one of the biggest mistakes from last year where Monash Ball wasn't organized. I think that is one of the prime mistakes that I've actually told Wesley about it this year. So this is one of the guidance that we can actually give out, something like this.
Okay.
Okay, so in your role as the vice president, how would you advocate for academic reforms or improvements when facing opposition from university staffs and administration? As a follow-up to that, can you also outline your approach to building consensus while protecting student interests?
I think I've already said this from the start, I think don't know which question from earlier. So basically, we just have to prepare a proposal, listing all the pros and cons, listing what this change and this reform can affect from the student side and also the campus side. And what we can do is we can give it to them and try our best to convince them using all of these points. I think another thing is also talking to them on what is really stopping them from doing this reform or doing this change. Knowing this context will help a lot in trying to prepare the proposal needed to convince them in doing this reform and change.
I think this ties to your manifesto point 3, where you talk about amplifying student voices. Can you explain more about it? Is it something, an integration to the ESSFS surveys that are being conducted or certain feedback form?
Yes. So one of the reasons why we think this anonymous form is much more effective is because first thing, it will require less info than ESSFS or SETU. One of the issues with ESSFS and SETU is that they are too long. A lot of students usually don't finish it, and yeah, it's not really effective. And one of the other issues is that SETU both surveys are being used for giveaways too much. It really encourages a lot of students to give very half effort and very non-genuine feedbacks to the point where it's not really useful at that point. They are just doing it just to get the whatever things that is given out during that time. So why we think this anonymous form is better is because less data required. We are not going to ask them for many informations. Like, SETU, they ask you to rate all the lecturers. They ask you to rate every aspect of the unit, and it'll just take too much time. Some students only have one small feedback and usually only towards one unit. So that's one of the ways that our form is better. It will be also open throughout the whole year. This will benefit because every student, maybe when they think about the feedback, they can easily just input it straight away because it's open throughout every week, every day, the whole year. So they'll be able to give out their feedback as soon as possible and not needing to wait from like week 4 or week 11 to give out these feedback. This is also better. This also benefits the school reps. As you know, EAC meetings are very, very empty with no feedbacks given by school reps, as you guys know. So this platform helps the school reps to gather more feedbacks so that they can actually put this into the EAC meeting, and then at least we can do a better job next year, right? So we get to voice out the students' feedback. Yeah.
So are you proposing like a Likert scale?
No. So what we'll be having for this form is basically a text box, because I feel like a Likert scale is not really that useful. We don't know what is the real issue. They just rate 1 to 5, and that's really all. Of course, we know the issue in that, but what is the context of this issue? Like, what really is the issue? Is it the video? Is it his teaching? Is it the syllabus? This is really important, because without this context, we can't actually just, email the unit director or the course director about it and be like, oh, you got a 1 for this topic. What do they know? They know it's 1, but what do they have to fix? They don't know, because we didn't get that data. We only got latent scale. So.
Before
Okay.
proceeding to the next question, I think just a reminder for the candidates. This is a share session, so there are students that would like to hear from another candidate as well. So please make sure to share the sharing session between the both of you, not just with candidate Brian, right?
Right.
So candidate James, if you have any things you'd like to share to students as well, please feel free to use the mic.
Yeah, sorry. So just to clear the air, we have delegated our task so that Brian is more towards the academic stuff, and I'm more towards the administrative, helping out other MUSA departments, resolving issues here and there. Of course, we'll still help out each other, but it's just Brian will be the main one taking charge in the academic side of stuff, and I will be taking over the administrative side of stuff. That's why for the questions so far, Brian has been answering it. So yeah.
So, like, just to comment on your new proposal for the feedback form, but doesn't that just completely go against like the year and major reps, like the feedback they gather from students and propose in SSLC and town hall meetings?
Okay, so as a SOE rep, I've seen all my year reps do their job. One of the issues is that not all year reps are extroverted, and it's really hard to give them, it's very hard for them to approach every student and be like, oh, I'm a year rep, please provide me with all your feedbacks. It's really hard for them to do that since they're not all extroverted. Some of them may be introverted. So it's really hard for them to do that. So having this form gives them a way more easier way to approach the student with this goal and with this job responsibility. So instead of approaching them and say, do you have a feedback for this unit? What the year reps can do is maybe give this anonymous form to the unit, to the lecturers in the unit, and have the lecturers give it out to all the students. And again, we also can use this as a platform for the year reps to provide to the students when the students want to submit their feedbacks.
So I have a question on that. Based on the survey that you have, would that results be informed? Will you collect those data and compile it, inform the schools about it? Because currently there is already surveys that are being conducted at the start of the semester and at the end, and that is by the uni so that they can get student feedback on the course, the unit, the lecturers, and that's why there is unit-specific feedback that's being collected. So given that you are proposing this additional feedback collection stream, what's going to be happening to, do you think that would affect current surveys that are being conducted? Because the uni still wants, one of the things that we did talk about also previously last year during our debate was because we also recognize the issue that CERTU surveys and ESSFS surveys are too long. Students don't answer them, or that's why you're getting a very low response rate. And that's why the uni try to promote it. You get like prizes if you fill it in, right? So we mentioned one of the things that we propose is if it can be on a Likert scale, so on a scale of 1 to 5, you do the rating. What was mentioned to us that it doesn't tell the uni much about student feedback, and that's why they are still keeping to what they have currently. So with your additional stream of feedback, do you think that would affect? And also, how are you going to be providing those results that are being collected to the uni? Because that will be under the vice presidents, you'll be managing it, right?
Also, just to add on to that, and how are you going to like propose this to the campus education committee in order for them to approve this?
All right, so first things first. First part is that, wait, sorry, can you repeat the first part? There's too many, sorry, there was too many questions being shot to me.
Sorry, you can ask.
Okay, so I'll just repeat my question. So you are proposing this additional feedback collection stream. Currently, CERTU surveys and ESS surveys are already present. And one of the things that me and Ibrahim did propose last year was when we wrote to the campus education about how we can increase the response rate. We are proposing that we make it such that surveys are shorter. And by shorter, we mean on a Likert scale. On a scale of 1 to 5, you do the rating. But what was the outcome after this email conversation with them was, by doing so, you are very much limiting your response to, on a scale of 1 to 5, what is it? But it doesn't tell the uni much about what's happening. Is it because there's a problem with it? There's a problem with the assignment structure? Or what is it? And also you acknowledge it just now. So given that, and with your additional feedback collection stream, how would you be providing those data to the uni, the campus education? Because I believe all these surveys that are being conducted, they are anonymous and they are being vetted by the uni. So before they are being passed to the CE, chief examiner, or respective lecturers.
So wait, basically, can you can you rephrase the question, because you gave me too much context?
Basically, what she's asking is like, how are you planning on passing on this information? Because as you know, as a rep as well, you don't get this information from the ESSF and SETU surveys. It goes directly to the chief examiners and unit coordinators. How are you planning on passing on this information to them? Because there's a matter of confidentiality which you need to keep, and which only the campus education committee and the specific unit coordinators and the heads of schools can only have this information. So how are you going to plan on tackling this matter?
So basically, the way that we're going to pass up this data is because at the end of the day, we have to analyze the data, make sure that it's actually genuine, make sure that it's not some fake, no context, random thing that students like to put out nowadays. After that, we'll most probably pass it up to them using just a normal email, just emailing the specific unit or specific person in charge of this feedback that's affected by this feedback.
So wouldn't that be a nightmare for you guys? Because there are like the amount of units that provided, and with 7 schools, how are you all going to like analyze each and every feedback and email each and every unit coordinator or chief examiner with this feedback?
Okay, first things first, one of the ways that there's actually 2 ways of this that I've already thought of. First thing is, since this is actually benefiting the school reps also, actually hugely benefiting the school reps, right? Because that's their job, is to help voice out the students' feedback. So what we are actually thinking about doing is splitting all of the feedbacks into different schools and having the schools to actually just check it out, see what they think about it. If they think it's relevant, or since they had it before, they experienced it, or either they know of this issue, they themselves can actually email and also analyze and also pass up this feedback to the person in charge. The other way is that if they're too busy to do so, we'll just have our secretary do it.
Okay.
So you're saying that this feedback would be open throughout the semester, and all schools can fill it. Any student is open to any Monash student to fill it in. So my concern with this is, by doing so, there are feedbacks that are meant to directly be addressed to the lecturer and not to the students. So for the students' perspective, they don't want students to be knowing of what they are writing, because it doesn't benefit you in any way. The whole purpose is for them to be addressed to the lecturers, and they would take the proper course of action. And I think this one here, for this feedback collection, it's being handled by probably one of the Monash departments, right?
Yeah.
So if you are doing that, it defeats, I think it would be contradicting their role, because they are meant to be in charge of doing such.
Because this is handled by actually a department in Clayton, Australia, because it's all centralized. It's not in like Monash, Malaysia. They have a separate department to handle something like this. It's all handled by a centralized system in Clayton. So yeah, but you can try and see how it works out. You have a feedback? Okay, so my next question would be regarding Monash 101, which was supposed to be a guide on the website and event which was initiated in 2022. And this year it was made into a pamphlet by the activities department. So go over to me as to why you believe this should fall under the vice president's department, and how are you planning on executing this series?
So we are aware that previously we are supposed, one of the job scope for MUSA Vice President is to handle Monash 101, and then it has been transferred back to the activities division. So we have already spoken to our activities division candidate, asking them, okay, is it okay if we could take over, if both of us are, if both our groups are elected as the OBs, would we be able to take over Monash 101? Number one, the main thing is, as to relate back to strengthening MUSA, we want to ease off their workload. So we'll take over Monash 101, and to follow up on how are we going to do it is basically as simple as what we state in our manifesto, understanding the challenges faced by new students, new international students, what are the tips and tricks around Monash, where you can get good food, where you can locate your classes and everything. So yeah.
But however, this is already like covered in the mangas like magazine, and even the MUSA division covers this under like Jom Kale and Jom Sunway.
Yes.
So to follow up with that, how international students actually face the most amount of challenges. So how are you going to bridge this with Monash 101?
So again, if MUIS is already covering international students, and as you already said, a lot of international students may still face issues, may still face confusion, even though the MUIS division already is giving all this treatment. We can always help them out, amplify their event, give more support to them so that it reaches out to more international students, and also directly tackling any questions that they have.
Okay. But also, if you know that Monash 101, right, was started to like explain and inform about the academic matters and the academic rights of students. So how are you all planning on incorporating this factor as well?
Can you repeat?
So basically Monash 101, right, it was started off initially to, explain and let the students know about their academic rights and certain academic needs, which new students need to know about. So how are you all planning on incorporating this?
So our plan is to create like Instagram posts. So let's say we create an Instagram post to MUSA official Instagram page. We can have pamphlets as well. Together with the Instagram post, we'll have tips and tricks, like basically what I said, tips and tricks to survive Monash, where you can get to your location here and there. Also, in regards to the academic stuff, we can also include in the same slides as well. We can also let them know about it during the MUSA introduction. Their basically the introduction. Also, we can bring it up during MSc as well. So yeah, there's a few platforms that we can bring this thing up.
Would you like to incorporate this in the MUSA website?
No, because it will be too much work.
What do you mean by, in what sense, like too much work?
Too much work as in we will have to be liaising with the publicity officer and the respective authority to get this done. Also, if Monash 101 is effective, we can consider it to put it inside the MUSA website. If we feel that there isn't a really high demand for it, if it's not really a need for it, we wouldn't want to take the extra step and take more effort into putting it into the MUSA website. Okay, to know how Monash 101 is effective, first of all, just ask around new students during orientation week. Ask them, hey, are you aware of this 101 thing? Do you have any other questions? And just to monitor and observe if whether Monash 101 is effective. If it is, we can put it up to the website. We have to talk to and liaise with the other MUSA departments if we can do that. But yeah, from what I know, incorporating things into the MUSA website is not an easy task. So it really depends on if this thing that we want to carry out, is it really effective? Is it really effective to reach out to the students via the website? So yeah.
So these pamphlets they're going to give out, right, in the orientation event, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
Is it going to be like physical pamphlets or e-pamphlets?
It's going to be both e-pamphlets and pamphlets as well.
So you're saying that these e-pamphlets will be in the MUSA Instagram page throughout for them to access?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that answer.
Okay, so we'll move on to some TEDx related questions. First question would be, what plans do you have in place to innovate the annual TEDx event, which usually happens in semester 2? And James, you would be familiar with it since you are part of the team. How familiar are you with TEDx licensing rules, and what measures would you take to ensure that our event complies with the TEDx standards?
So could you, because there's quite a lot of questions, could you go like one by one?
Okay, first question. What plans do you have in place to innovate the annual TEDx event?
So we would like to get more international speakers in. That's the main thing. Another one is we would like to improve more on the technical difficulties. So the reason why we had so much that technical difficulties is because we didn't really had a proper dry run, and that was because of some change of venue last minute. So yeah, to answer your question, the first point is to have more international speakers, and the second one is to improve the quality of the whole event by having a proper dry run.
So how are you planning on communicating, finding, and liaising these international speakers, and how do you plan on bringing them down to Monash, Malaysia?
All right, so we'll first approach this by looking for international speakers, international individuals that are based in Malaysia. Maybe they have grown up not in Malaysia, but they are currently residing here. So they have background knowledge, and also they are expert in their own field of knowledge in their own field back in the international countries. So we'll just approach them who are locally first. We'll approach them asking them, okay, we have this event, the basic procedures, asking them, okay, is it you guys down to come over? If we manage to find international speakers that are currently not in Malaysia, we can take out some of the funds, the TEDx allocated funds. We can take some of that out, subsidize them, maybe their flight ticket and also their accommodation. So it really depends on like if the international speakers that are not currently in Malaysia, if they are really committed to this. So yeah.
How will you justify this, like to the finance, Monash Finance?
As in
order for paying for their flight tickets, how do you justify this? Because they will just come back to you, and Student Life will come back to you saying that there is a pool of talent which is locally available in Malaysia. So how are you going to justify this point of yours?
we'll just try our best to let them know, okay, so this has not really been done in TEDx before. It's really sort of like once in a lifetime chance to get this speaker here. If the speaker is really committed, if the speaker is really interested to come to our event, we will have to be as committed as them to be able to bring them over as well. So justify to finance department saying that, okay, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. We would like to bring them over for to be a speaker and this and that. It will be a great publicity for Monash itself, because we have sort of like a VIP speaker coming. So yeah.
Okay. To move on to our second part of the question, like since you are like, we just want to know like how familiarized are you with the TEDx licensing rules, and what measures would you take to ensure that our event complies with the TEDx standards?
So from what I know, for TEDx, for the licensing that we have for TEDx, we can only host up to 100 people. And also we will need to do video recording, which will be then submitted to TEDx, the official organization. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but how about the licensing rules? Do you have any more information you could give us on it?
Licensing rules as in?
Okay, so maybe we can just explain about it. For the TEDx licensing, we can only host up to 100 because I think this is the lowest tier licensing that we have. In order for us to host more people, is it 250? I think it was 250. What needs to happen is we need to have Head of Student Life, which is Mr. Selwyn, to attend a TEDx conference outside of Malaysia. And from our point of view, this year, we don't think it's very much achievable, because to be able to fly to, what country was it? America. Yeah, it was America. There are some other countries, but it's quite far away from Malaysia. It doesn't justify the point of they having to go there just to get our license renewed for 1 year. So that was why we can only host up to 100. Yeah. So I would say my suggestion would be to keep it as 100, because as of now, if you just review through the TEDx official website, the most that we can host is 100, unless in any case head of student life wants to go there, or if by chance they are there, which I don't think it's very much feasible and not going to happen in the near future.
Okay, and it's just that could you answer the second part of a question, which was like, is there any measures like you would take to ensure that the event complies with the TEDx standards?
So extra measures, I wouldn't say it is an extra measures that we have to do. It's the basic measure that we have to do is to comply to it. So what I will do to achieve this is to, first of all, of course, go through all the licensing through, brief our TEDx team about this. For the whole planning phase and also execution phase, make sure that all of these licensing, all of these rules are followed strictly and not violated.
This is just like an opinion I want from you. Do you believe that you should recruit a head of TEDx, or the vice president should be the head of TEDx?
In my opinion, I feel the MUSA VP will have to be the MUSA TEDx.
So you're not going to recruit a head of TEDx then? Let's say like you do get elected, so you won't be recruiting a head of TEDx?
As of now, no. Because I would say there is a lot of internal miscommunications between the MUSA VP and the MUSA TEDx president. So yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Okay. So now you also know that TEDx requires like a large amount of funding, which we generously do get from the MUSA fund. So, but however, how would you go about like securing sponsorships or any additional funding which you require? Because I can understand with your plan that you would like to have like an international speaker, which would require some extra funding as well. And how would you present the event's value to your potential sponsors?
So our plan for if we are elected as MUSA VP, our plan is to plan everything done during the semester break. So once the semester starts, we can start rolling in all the budget proposal and the EMS. So with that, we can prepare a sponsorship booklet, which we can start finding companies, approaching them, asking them if they want to sponsor our event. So this type of sponsorship approach, when we are looking for sponsors, it has to be done way early. We have to sort of liaise and negotiate with them, saying that, okay, in our event, we have like 100 people attending. This is the benefits that you will get, and this is the benefits that we will get. So yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so next question from us is, what strategies, so this is outside of TEDx, what strategies would you implement to ensure effective resource management for the EAC Committee, Education Affairs Committee, balancing the academic needs of students with the budget constraints that we experience this year? And could you also share an example of how would you prioritize these resources when addressing competing student demands?
Okay, so at the end of the day, I think we can stay with the same system as you guys did it this year. Main thing is that all schools will be getting a fair amount, an equal amount of 2K. And that's one of the ways that we'll distribute the funds so that it's fair for all schools, as all schools have 2K. So I don't really see a situation where this can happen, where we need to distribute it so concisely to consider impact of each events and choose the events of which one we will give the funds to. One of the situations may happen is, as I think SOP has had this year, where they have run out quite a lot of funds, and they have run out of EAC funds, and they wanted more to do other events of their workshops. So if this happens, one of the ways we would like to do is basically go through all the budgets of all schools and maybe have a meeting with them and see which school is okay and good with giving their funds, sparing some funds to the school that really needs it. Of course, we'll have a vote and we'll have a meeting. We'll have all approvals before doing so. So, yeah.
So just now, I think earlier on you mentioned something about SOE and SOIT. They have funds provided by the school, right?
Okay, so the funds we are getting is from the student and... Sorry, wait, let me try to remember. Yeah, okay. So we have funds from the Student Experience Engagement Office, the manager called Miss Yip. So we do get funds from them. Basically, School of Engineering and School of IT will be giving us some funds to do their own our own initiatives and events. Basically, it's just MUSA budget, but under school.
Do you know what about the other schools? Do they also get funds?
From what I know, some schools only get these kind of funds, maybe for the giveaways like SETU or ESSFS. From what I heard, maybe SOMAS gets it, SAS gets it. SOP, I think, gets only some for the ball that they do during the end of the event, during the end of their year. For SOB, I'm not too sure on this. I didn't really talk much to them. So.
Just to confirm also, if you are elected next year, would there still be a cross-collaborative fund? So you know about us having it. During the MUSA training, you also mentioned that you want to make it such that to organize it on a larger scale and host more students, which students generally want a lot of events. You want to make sure that you want to have the events, let me put it this way, you want to make sure that there is no criteria that academic events that are organized would be getting these funds. Are you all still fixing on that idea? Because just now we talk about how do you justify that to finance, right?
Okay, so this depends on what finance says. We have to get their approval. We have to get their side on this. If it's possible, we'll do it. If it's not possible, then we'll just stay the same.
So if they say it's not possible for you not to have the funds distributed to non-academic events, would you set the criteria that for this buffer funds, so we call it like buffer funds, would you set a criteria that then it must be academic related?
Yeah, it'll just stay the same as this year.
Because
so
what I see is from schools that have used the buffer funds, it is like you mentioned, schools that do not receive funds by the uni, by their school. So in that sense, they have to organize more events if they want, or if to organize a collaborative event with another school, they may require more funds, and having this buffer fund would in that sense be better for them because they have enough resources to buy whatever they need to host an event for the students.
But like, just to add on to her, like, I'll just explain to you again what the cross-collaborative fund is. The cross-collaborative fund was initiated just so that schools can have educational events. So basically, let me just give you a quick example, like SOE students could have an event about financial literacy. That was the main purpose of our initiative and the fund. So I believe that, you know, the idea of having the non-academic event related buffer funds, I don't think it'll be feasible as your role as the heads of Education Affairs Committee. But just to like ask you, I just have one more question. As you know that you both are going to split the roles where James is going to handle the administrative side and you're going to handle the academic and education side. So James, as you are handling the administrative side, how do you intend on deputizing for the president when he or they are not available?
So basically, if the president is not available, it's basically taking up his role of everything. EMS approval, liaising with external university, liaising with student life. So of course, we can't say that, he's not available this time. We have to step up last minute, and then the moment we step up, we still have to ask our president on what to do. It's more towards a long-term thing where all the while we have to observe his actions, learn from him, learn what he does on and off, make sure that his actions are correct. So whenever he's not available, we'll help him out. So yeah, that's my answer.
You have anything to add on to that? Okay, I think that's all from our end. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ibrahim and Kimberly, for the questions to the candidates. So now we're proceeding to the next session, which is the Q&A session from the students. So just a reminder to all the students that are watching this on the live stream, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat box and we'll be addressing the questions on behalf of you. Meanwhile, for the audience that are present with us physically here today, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll be passing the mic to you and then you can ask the questions directly to the candidates. So is there any questions from the live audience that are present with us physically? You can just raise your hand. If no, we'll proceed with the live stream first. So the first question is, how will you handle disagreements between yourself and the 7 school reps if you decide that an initiative such as the Your Surveys should be carried out? I believe there's a typo here. I think it's such as the surveys should be carried out. But the school reps decide that your idea has merit, but it's not actionable. Let's assume that both sides are very stubborn in their opinions.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah. How will you handle disagreements between yourself and the 7 school reps if you decide that an initiative such as the surveys should be carried out, but the school reps decide that your idea has merit, but it's not actionable? Let's assume that both sides are very stubborn in their opinions.
Then one of the main things that we would like to do is also talk to the 7 schools about this, get their context on this. We have to understand why is it not actionable by getting their context and their reasoning to it. And after that, we'll think about it. We'll maybe find a solution to make it actionable, or not, maybe just not do it. Like I said, at the end of the day, we must prioritize the 7 schools and we have to make sure that we listen to everybody. That's the main thing.
All right, so switching on to the audience that are present with us physically, does anyone have any questions to the audience? If no, then we'll proceed to the live stream question again. All right, so to the candidates, considering the responsibilities of the vice president role, do you think limiting the vice president to organizing just the TEDx event every year is a waste of the portfolio's resources? Do you have any other suggestions for using the VP fund more effectively? And if so, why?
That's why we have, of course, the TEDx event is taking the huge chunk of the budget, but that's not the main. That's not like the main thing that goes into the budget. We also have all these academic subsidy funds, which also is not really. It's not really presented up physically. That's why students don't see, okay, there's a lot of funds still left out there. Of course, if there are a lot of funds still left out, we can also always give these funds to other MUSA departments that needs it. So other MUSA departments that maybe in their event, they are really, really tight on budget and they really need this amount of money, we can always bring our own funds to them, provided that our own activities, our own initiatives are all under control and all under budget. Yeah.
All right, so is there any questions from a live audience? All right, here's the mic.
Hello, hi James and Ryan. So I do have one question. So as you are aware, you are next in line under the president because you're 2 are vice presidents, right? So in an event where the president is away or absent due to unforeseen circumstances, how will you ensure that both of you two can come to an agreement to who will be stepping up to the role and take over the position as acting president? and to make sure that the overall operation of MUSA is still carried on efficiently without any obstruction.
So I will be stepping up. To answer your question is, yeah, I'll be stepping up. Yeah.
You will be stepping up. So how do you think that by stepping up, not because, yes, you can appoint anyone to step out, but what I want to know is when you step out, how are you going to address the issues one by one? Maybe like finance processes, because we have budgets to be approved, we have EMSs to be approved, we have a lot to be overseen and many queries coming in. So how do you intend to, one by one, to address all these problems?
So again, as I said, we have to monitor and also observe what the current president, not the current and during our term, our president, his actions, what is he doing all the time. We observe his action, of course. We also give him our opinion on it. So we are more or less used to use and also more or less know what he is doing. So whenever there is time for us to step up, we'll know what to do when we step up. Of course, if we are unsure of stuff when we step up, we can always ask for advice from him. And if he is not available and he couldn't be in contact, we can always ask the HAC or previous MUSA presidents as well.
Thank you so much. So I do have follow-up, or not just follow-up, but it's a new question. So in the event where your opinion as the vice president go against your president, how do you want to address it, or how do you intend to address, and what would be the outcome that you will be foreseeing after I say communication? Because I believe your question would be to communicate and try to mediate, but what outcome would you be possibly looking to achieve?
It depends on the situation. So let's say there is a problem regarding to our side of our job scope. So let's say there is an issue regarding TEDx. I would say at the end of the day, because this event lies under VP, I would say the final decision will have to be made by us, and whatever feedback or advice that the president gives, it is more just like an advice, and it's more just like an advice to us. So of course we have to think very rationally. Okay, is his advice, if this advice he gives is a really correct one? Also, we are prioritizing students and also benefiting MUSA. So whatever actions that we do, it's not benefiting us, it's not benefiting the committee, but benefiting MUSA as a whole. So when it comes to decision making, we have to come to an agreement that, okay, is this decision benefiting you, me, or the students? Because at the end of the day, even when it comes to benefiting students, we sometimes have to sacrifice our own self. So yeah, our main approach is to make decisions that prioritize and benefit MUSA and the students.
Thank you so much.
All right, is there any audience that are present with us physically would like to ask questions? If not, we'll proceed with the live stream. Oh, is there? Or we proceed with the live stream question first. So a follow-up question from the previous limiting VP to organizing just a TEDx event, is it a waste of portfolio resources? So the follow-up question from this audience is, means this year we can only expect TEDx from VP again?
As stated in our manifesto, we will be doing Monash 101 series. So that takes a little bit out of the budget, but of course that is more towards the new students and also the international students. We can initiate more events. We are already initiating the workshop, academic and professional workshop as well. So that's one more event to be as expected by the students. If we were to organize more events, it means that we will need more funding. And based on what we have currently from the previous years, all of the spendings are already really tight. So yes, me and Brian, we are always open to organize. Let's say if somebody came out to us, proposed an event, saying, hey, we want to do this event, could you guys help out? Yes, we would be willing to. But of course, budget constraints, we have to look at the budget, we have to look at the manpower and everything. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, okay. So the next question I believe is to James. So earlier you mentioned the VP fund covers more than just events like TEDx, yet it's not being shared with students. What's the point of advocating for transparency in MUSA if this isn't being disclosed?
So does it mean that we have to share our our spendings to the participants?
I think earlier you mentioned something on there are few expenses that VP is not just putting on TEDx, you're putting on other events, but the students don't know about it. So this audience trying to ask you, what's the point of advocating for transparency in MUSA if this isn't being disclosed?
We can't really share, we can't share our spending amounts in MUSA Instagram stories saying that, okay, we have spent this amount for EAC subsidies and then made this spending for this and that. So yeah.
Okay, so is there any other questions from the audience that are present with us physically?
Okay, question for both of these. But before that, I think I will address the live stream question as well. The fact is that the funds that all departments are using are indeed disclosed during the AGM once an annual year. So in fact, if you're more interested in finding more details about that, you should probably actually go check out the AGM minutes. But other than that, my question to both candidates is, can the candidates elaborate further on the roles and responsibilities of the vice presidents outside of the academic portfolio attendance?
So on the administrative side of stuff, we are always supposed to help out the president. So when it comes to helping him, it's more towards restructuring MUSA and also their constitution and also divisional structure, helping him out as in, okay, giving him opinion, okay, is this viable, is this doable and whatnot. Also to help him out when it comes to university projects. So when there is projects that are cross-collaborated between universities, yes, MUSA president is the one that steps out, he's representing as the face of MUSA. But as VP, we are more towards the practical side of stuff. He will be representing MUSA and we will be more towards, okay, liaising with MUSA Gen said, hey, can you get this registration done? And then we will be more on the logistics side. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you to elaborate further on what you mean by the administrative portfolio?
Well, I'm not really sure on that, sorry.
Okay, then just to give you a quick rundown of what it means. So before my term, it used to mean basically documentation and administrative processes relating to short-term operations for the year. What it was redefined to after my year and what subsequently every candidate for vice presidency has advocated in their manifesto since then is the portfolio that should be redefined to include administrative large-scale structural projects and other necessary growth projects for MUSA's long-term future, which includes also the redevelopment plan for activities, publicity, and welfare to become divisions. That is supposed to be a project under the vice presidents. That was not conducted under the vice presidents and therefore it has been redeveloped. Well, Jackson has implemented it like last year. Yeah. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, you implemented it right? Yeah. So it was implemented by Jackson because at the time the vice presidents weren't knowledgeable enough to implement the plan. And that plan was also put forward by me. So that's what one of the vice president's projects was supposed to be. And that's what it should also focus on moving forward, large-scale structural projects for MUSA's long-term growth instead of we are looking purely just within 2025.
Sorry, this was not stated in the constitution and the handbook that was given to us. So we are very sorry if we can't answer your question, but yeah, it wasn't really in both PDFs that were given to us.
Okay, yeah, I don't expect you to know all of this information, but what I'm telling you is that the scope of every office bearer is ever changing based on the needs of every year. And this is one of those things that should have been communicated long before. If Jackson knows what it is, you should also have consulted with other EXCO members regarding your role as VPs. Your role as VPs is not just whatever is stated in the constitution and the handbook. The handbook as well has not been amended since 2022, 2021 in fact. So the fact is, regarding your role is actually to plug in all the gaps from every other department in the EXCO, except for finance. That should be your role. That is the broadly defined term that is not stated in the constitution or the handbook. Okay. I want to address one of your examples from earlier. You quoted Monash Law 2023 as an example for how you can provide guidance to MUSA 2025's office bearers. I'd like to ask you to elaborate further on your answer on what specific type of guidance that you are able to provide.
One of the guidance that we would like to provide is main thing is that we would like to have the guidance we will give is most probably just asking them to prioritize on the most flagship events, the events that would impact the most students. So that's why I said it. It's because Monash Board impacts nearly the whole school and it's really important to have it every year. So having it cancelled was a really huge mistake.
Okay, I think on that note, I would rather you actually do further research into the reason why it didn't happen. If you had watched the MSC from back then, which I was also a part of, it would also have stated that the reason why it did not happen was due to large amounts of delays in which the vice presidents were unable to assist and which the president was also unable to assist. And therefore, finance was the one who personally contacted the hotel and arranged for the accommodation. But at the same time, it could not happen because the timeline was too tight. So that was one of those things that the finance director is in charge of because it's finance related. The approvals is president related because the president is engaged with so like an on discussion for booking hotel and so on and so forth. But in the event where like advice is needed for this kind of event, I feel like the vice president's role should be more focused on projects and not events related. More so, not because the vice president is unable to do so, but because it's not so much in your line of portfolio. Your portfolio is more academic and projects related, not so much events related. So that should be delegated more towards the activities and also the president. Just clarifying.
Yeah, I just didn't want to disclose the reasons. But if you said, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Last question. Probably last question. Okay. To follow up on James' explanation, I think you mentioned earlier, if Monash 101 is not effective or well known, then there is no quote unquote. Don't quote me on this. Okay. No further need to put it on the website because it's inefficient, something to that effect, correct? So what is your opinion if I say that the certain projects like Monash 101 has potential for future long-term growth, but at the moment is not efficient enough for you to use resources on the website and other projects can be prioritized? Do you think that Monash 101 should still be prioritized as a project for future long-term growth, potentially meaning not in the next year, but in the next 2-3 years, like all our other MUSA projects? Or do you still think that in the current heat of the moment, current projects in 2025 would be more worth your attention and resources?
So could you repeat the question in one sentence? Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I asked, if Monash 101 is not as efficient a use of resources compared to other potential events in 2025, but will yield more long-term benefit in 2 to 3 years' time, do you think it's more worth it to spend those time and resources on the current events or the potential long-term benefit event like Monash 101?
We will prioritize it for the long-term events, for the long-term benefits, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, understood. That's it for my questions.
All right. Is there a live stream? Do you have questions? Okay, sure. So there's one question from a live stream, and this would probably be the second last question if there's any other questions from the audience here with us physically. So this will be the last question from a live stream. If one of you decides to step down, what immediate actions will you take to ensure this doesn't disrupt the operations within the VP role?
Step down as in give up the role?
Yes, means if one of you resigns or decide to, anything happens, so just one of you in the VP.
Well, we will not resign. And to ensure that we do not resign is that we delegate tasks to our teams efficiently, evenly. We will do all the planning phase during our semester break, and during the semester itself, it will all be execution phase. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, I believe this person is trying to ask if one person is not with another person, what are some of the actions that you guys will take? Given that I believe this audience definitely know that you guys have the capabilities to do all the work as a VP, but there are some circumstances that you guys might not be able to be there with one another. So given that if let's say these situations happen, what are the immediate actions will you guys take?
So let's give an example. So let's say if Brian decides to resign and I will have to take up his academic role, not academic role, sorry, like his role and his responsibilities on the academic stuff. For administrative side, when I'm dealing with TEDx and also other projects, I would be more towards not executioner phase, not the person who executes it, but more towards the person who plans it out, gives out instructions, says, okay, this is good to go, and whatnot to our team.
Any elaborations from Brian? No. All right. So I think that's the end of the live stream question. Is there any other questions from the physical audience? Okay.
All right. So, not sure if both of you are aware, we have a forum called the PDCSAF, which is the Pro-Vice Chancellor Student Affair Forum. All right. Can I first note you're aware of this forum first?
No, we are not.
Okay. So this forum is basically where you meet the key personnel. For example, Professor Adiwan Aruzaman, who is our Pro-Vice Chancellor and President of National University Malaysia, also with Professor Beverly Webster, and basically all of the key figures of Monash. So, since vice presidents are, I would say, the main portfolio beyond the academic side, do you both have any plans in terms of any initiative to gather data or gather key metrics to actually head over to the forum and present them whenever you are called upon to answer their affairs regarding to students?
So can you repeat your question?
Okay, so I'll make it more simpler. There's a forum which the key figures of MUSA will be called upon to present problems or maybe conflicts that has arisen within the student community. So are there any initiative or plans that you all would think to implement in order to gather solid data to be presented instead of going out and say that I observe, we observe?
Okay, so one of the ways is using one of our second manifesto point that is basically amplifying the student voices, where we'll be having a anonymous form. So this is where we can get the data about these kind of situations.
All right, so it's an anonymous form, but how do you think that, I would say, the legitimacy of this response are actually true, or would it be students who are actually intentionally trying to cause any, I would say, unnecessary fluctuations or conflicts?
So first thing, we'll talk to the people who is maybe affected. Maybe we'll talk to our friends. Maybe we'll network with other people to make sure that this is true. Another thing is we will actually, even though it's an anonymous form, we will actually kind of get their email because we want to actually send them back the response of what they actually asked for the feedback. Let's say they ask like, oh, let's say they give a feedback about the unit is having problems with this. We would like to send them back a response of this feedback from the lecturers. So this is why with that email, we can actually ask them more about the context and also maybe make sure that it's actually genuine and not just some fake things that usually happens in nowadays things.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the end of the Q&A session from the student community. I hope that the candidates have addressed all the questions that you guys have. And now we'll be moving on to the next session for today, which is the closing statement from the candidates. So during this session, the candidates will summarize all the key points that they have discussed during the debating session and also emphasize to the student community why they should vote for them as your vice president. So whenever you guys are ready.
Okay, sorry, we did not add a lot of the points for the closing statement, but we like to keep it as short as possible. So first of all, thank you everyone for showing up today. We really appreciate all of your presence for supporting us. Again, as your VP candidate, we'll significantly put emphasis on resolving academic issues, organizing creative workshops that will help with maybe resume building and any future career skills. and also building MUSA. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if there are any inquiries that you guys have. We hope everyone can support us by voting for Aquitas. Thank you.
All right, so that's the end of the Vice President candidates debate. The next session that will be happening is the General Secretary debate that will be happening in just a few minutes. So please make sure to stay tuned on MUSA YouTube channel. And for those that are available around Monash University, please come forward to Auditorium 1 and watch the debating session physically. I can guarantee it will be very interesting. So that's it for today. And thank you so much to all the audience that tune in and also to the candidates and office bearers. See you guys soon.